Jefferson National Forest lies just north of Blacksburg, Virginia. My absolute favorite part of the forest is the Panda Paws Pond. The pond itself is scenic and beautiful, but the best part is the miles and miles of hiking trails accessible from the pond. I try to hike between 3 to 6 miles per week. I do this for 2 reasons. Firstly, because it's great exercise, and secondly, because it helps keep me sane. Today, however, the sanity part changed. Just like I do every week, I packed a few bottles of water and a collapsible water bowl for my dog Lana and headed for the pond. When I parked, I noted 6 or 7 cars in the parking lot and thought about how I'd need to keep Lana close to me so she wouldn't bother any other hikers or pond goers. I always turn on my hiking app on my phone as soon as I get out of the car. The app helps me gauge the distance I've hiked, and most importantly, it helps ensure I don't get lost. For any of you who have any knowledge of that area, you know it's borderline impossible to get lost on these trails, but I like to have the security. I got out of the car, shouldered my bag, grabbed the dog leash, and turned on the app. I was greeted with the familiar start workout, and I began walking towards the pond. Everything seemed perfect. The temperature was cool, the sky was overcast, and for the first half mile, I was completely alone. As Lana and I rounded a bend, we saw another hiker. This hiker was a man in his early to mid-20s, and he was moving. His eyes were wide and unblinking, and he looked to be nervous. He wasn't running, but I doubted I would have been able to keep up with him. Lana and I stepped to the side to let him pass, and I offered a friendly good morning. This guy never stopped looking ahead. He never even acknowledged my existence. As he passed, I pulled out my phone to get a video of his odd behavior and noticed I had absolutely no service. My app's GPS showed me standing still on the blank map. My minute per mile tracker had skyrocketed to 2 hours per mile and was steadily climbing. I turned the app off to save battery and decided I would just stick to the trails I already knew. When I finally reached the pond, it was a ghost town. Usually there's older couples and moms pushing jogging strollers around the pond loop, but today there wasn't a soul in sight. The combination of the deserted pond and the strange wide-eyed hiker was giving me an uneasy feeling, and for a moment, I was considering turning around and heading home. As I was standing there contemplating what to do next, I felt Lana pulling on her leash. Okay, Lana Bear, let's go, I said as we moved forward. There's a section of the pond loop that forces you to cross a wooden bridge. The bridge separates the pond and a small section of marshland. Usually when you cross it, you can hear bullfrogs bellowing and see ducks swimming around lazily. Today though, there was nothing, no sound, no movement, nothing. I found it a little unnerving, but as we were so close to the trailhead, I decided to push on. We took our usual route, Lady Slipper Trail to Joe Pye Trail, to Poverty Creek Trail. Usually once we hit Poverty Creek, we take a right and head back to the car, but today was such perfect hiking weather that I decided to take a left and try a new trail I'd never been on before. I double-checked my location on a posted trail map and decided I would follow Poverty Creek to Royal Trail, then loop back towards the parking lot. As soon as I turned left on Poverty Creek, I experienced the worst case of vertigo I've ever experienced. I leaned on a low-hanging branch for a few minutes, trying to regain my composure. When I finally felt normal again, I decided to snap off a branch and use it as a walking stick, just in case the vertigo came back. The branch gave me a ton of resistance before finally coming off. However, it didn't make a sound. I stopped and stared at the branch that should have come off with an ear-shattering crack, and realized I couldn't hear anything other than my own breath. I looked up at the sky, barely visible through the canopy of the trees. The sky was a lot darker than when I first stepped onto the trails. I felt my heart start racing. Calm down. It just looks like it's gonna rain. That's why you don't hear any animals, I thought to myself. For some stupid reason, I decided to keep going. I could have and most definitely should have turned around, but I kept going and turned onto Royale Trail. After about 15 minutes of walking and hearing only the sound of Lana panting, I figured I should be close to the point where I could loop back around and get out of the woods. Another minute or two of walking presented me with a trail that headed in the direction I needed to go. The trail was unmarked, unlike all the other trails. Whatever, just get out of these woods before you get stuck in here in this rain. This I said out loud, mostly just to break the silence. This unmarked trail looked pretty well traveled, so I assumed it was okay. I assumed so very wrong. The trail quickly narrowed to nothing more than a deer trail, but as it was going the way I needed to go, I decided to follow it. The vegetation started to get really thick, and I had to duck my head so I didn't get hit in the face by stray branches. Barreling through the brush like I was, it should have been loud enough to wake the dead, but instead I heard nothing but my own heavy breathing. Suddenly I fell through the brush and into a clearing. On my hands and knees I started to laugh at how shitty this hike was going, and looked over at Lana. She was frozen in place. All of her hair was raised, and her teeth were bared. She looked straight ahead, and let out a low growl. I slowly looked up, hoping it was just a deer or rabbit. Instead, I saw something that made my blood run cold. In the center of the clearing stood a man in camouflage. He was facing away from me with his head down. Lana growled again, and I saw the man's head perk up. "Run," he said in a low-toned voice. I ran, faster than my feet could carry me, little Lana somehow matching my stride. As I silently crashed through the brush, I turned to see if the man was following us, and he was. He wasn't running, but he still seemed to be gaining on me. Every time I looked over my shoulder, he was a little closer. I couldn't see his eyes, but he flashed an unnervingly white smile as he gained on us. I knew I had to be close to the 460, the highway that runs through the forest, and I knew if I could just make it to the pavement, that I'd have a chance of making it home. "Run, little piggy, run," the man taunted just behind me. I saw the highway and changed direction. My legs screamed for me to stop, and every breath I took felt like broken glass was filling my lungs. I dove through the tree line and heard the man laugh as I crash landed on the shoulder of 460. I scrambled to my feet and turned around just in time to see the man melt back into the woods. The last thing that I saw was that white grinning smile. As that too disappeared, the silence I had been in for a better part of an hour just completely stopped. The sound of passing cars and semi-trucks suddenly blasted me, and I realized I was safe. I looked around and got my bearings, and realized I was still 2 miles from my car. Lana and I started walking back towards the parking lot, making sure to keep ample distance between myself and the tree line. During breaks in the passing cars, I could hear twigs snapping, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I finally made it back to my car. I was shaking so bad, I dropped my keys twice trying to unlock the door. As I was closing my car door, I heard the man's eerie taunt again. "Run, little piggy." I've come to the decision that I will never hike there again. If you enjoyed this episode, please comment. Any feedback is totally welcome. And please give it a like or dislike. The choice is in your hands. And last but not least, always remember, I am the words that keep the birds humming. Join me.